Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League match day 4, second video. We have here to analyze the Wednesday games. Dani, Fisichella, Alvaro, Romeo with us. You have the other video in the channel for today's games for Tuesday. So now time for Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or Man United, for instance. So guys, remember to comment the video with us. Of course, we want to know your opinion and support us. Press the like, subscribe. Now let's go on with the show. And remember, if you are looking for a bookmaker to sign up with, here you have a great welcome offer with 1xBet up to 520 euros or dollars. Use the promo code Oddspedia YouTube. You have the link in the description already. Many comments already, some picks, for instance, going for a handicap in Braga's games, but Real Madrid Braga, but let's start with Group A. This is one of the most interesting ones. The first game is a good one. Bayern Munich, Galatasaray. Perhaps we see again a lot of goals. It looks like Bayern Munich, they were furious after the knockout in the cup, and they thrashed Dortmund with Kane scoring a hat-trick. I saw some meme on Twitter saying that Kane would have passed the Inglorious Bastards test when they say how to say 3 in German. But jokes apart, this game, I think there could be some value, Dan, if we go for goals market.
Yes.
Because both teams are really high-scoring teams.
Are Bayern Munich unbeatable? No, they're not. They lost to Fry. That's my German. Liga Saarbrücken in midweek. Got knocked up of the
like Trapattoni is German.
Exactly. Strunz. They got, which has got different meaning in Italy. But then they dismantled Borussia. Second clean sheet in a row in a Bundesliga after the 8-0 win against Bochum. They continue to be intimidating domestically, even when they go through rough patches. Last year, remember, they had almost no right to win the league, and they did. And they are nowhere near the perfect, complete machine, but they still managed to score a lot of goals, win games. But perhaps that's what we're expecting from them domestically. Kane is in great form, but let's not forget Leroy Sané, 9 goals, 5 assists so far, as important perhaps as the Englishman. And in Champions League at this stage, they're almost a safe bet in terms of wins. They got 82 points out of 84 in UCL home matches. 2 wins, 1 draw. Do you know who they draw against? Against Ajax in 2018 at home. But still, they win every single game at home. They are a safe bet. As I said, they need to improve. I think sometimes they go through games where they give opposition chances. Against Galatasaray in Turkey, they suffered. Galatasaray had good opportunity to score, and they did score with an outrageous goal from Icardi from the penalty spot at Panenka. But Galatasaray is going to find it difficult to win this one. They only won 1 away game in the Champions League in the last 11, which was against Manchester United. And it's going to come down to the game against Manchester United to decide who's going to qualify. But as I said, they are in a good form, top of Turkish league, unbeaten domestically, won at the weekend. And I think they could find the goal here at the Bay Arena. They always scored away in the Champions League so far, Galatasaray, 2 against Zalgiris, 3 against Olimpia Ljubljana, 3 against Molde, 3 against Man United. Can they score 1 against Bayern Munich away? I think they can. Yeah. Both to score. 171. That's why the odds are not so high.
Indeed, we have already some comments here with over 3.5 goals. Both teams to score, as Dani is saying, is good. Bayern, Asian handicap minus 1.5. We can see again a 3-1, a 4-2. Alvaro, do you agree also? Do you see goals here?
Yeah, I agree in Daniele speaks. I still believe that Harry Kane is way more important than Leroy Sané, Dani.
No. As important as.
No, I say that Harry Kane is way more important because the goals
because he scores.
No, he scores and he's there because last season Bayern wouldn't have scored some of the goals they did score against Dortmund because Choupo-Moting wasn't that quick to get into that scoring positions. Just because Sané is not unique in Bayern, whereas Harry Kane is unique in Bayern. Sané has some players who look like him or who have the same profile, but Harry Kane has offered Bayern exactly what they needed. They were missing a number 9 since Lewandowski left, and that's why he's so important. And for me, I say that in the past, but I say this again. I think he's the best striker in the world. Haaland is the best scorer in the world, and Mbappe is the best forward overall. I mean, this is for me the definition of the three of them. But Harry Kane is phenomenal.
Do you think Harry Kane this season can score as many goals as Haaland did last season? I think 55?
It's a possibility, yeah. But I think, how to put it? I think that Harry Kane's performances sometimes are very good without scoring, whereas with Haaland it doesn't happen the same thing. So I think that Erling Haaland sometimes is more eager to score than Harry Kane. Harry Kane sometimes is happy not scoring because he plays very well. So that changes a little bit the thing. I think that the eagerness of Haaland puts him a little bit, makes him more likely to score more goals. But anyway, coming into this game, they are two entertaining sides. I said before, I agree with Daniele's picks. But one of them can let their creativity and fervor run wild because they have 9 points. And the other one cannot because they've got 4 points. So with Galatasaray, it's like, yeah, we like to play this certain way. We are an attacking-minded side. But, let's look from the back mirror because Manchester United is still behind us. And Manchester United has been terrible in this group stage. And I will say that Galatasaray has played commendably and very nicely. But football is football, and this is what happens. When it comes to Bayern, it was funny to see that Thomas Tuchel had a dig at Lothar Matthaus in the weekend, just like a microphone drop moment, basically after the football game against Dortmund, when he basically he just took advantage of the scoreline just to silence his critics. Kane is fantastic. The league is injured, but I don't think that this is going to affect Bayern massively for this game. The importance of having a number 9 is incredible. Bayern has one, and the number 9 fixes so many things. Bayern to score over 2.5 goals, my first pick, 167. Over 1.5 goals in the second half, I like it, 150, but I prefer the first one I gave. And Bayern to win at 30 minutes is my highest pick. That pays 183, and it's been happening so often in the Champions League that I could back it. But I prefer Bayern to score over 2.5 goals in the game, 167.
Many ideas. Don't waste your time with Bayern to win. The odds are so low, and so far, by the way, we don't have a big top scorer in this competition. We have 7 players with 3 goals. None of them are Haaland or Harry Kane, for instance. So these big names also have to score a lot of goals, as we expect. And the most interesting game of this group, and perhaps one of the most interesting games on Wednesday that I will take a look closely, is Copenhagen Man United in the Parken Stadium, because Man United, they've been so poor so far during the season. They were this close also to drop points against Copenhagen a couple of weeks ago. That I can see great odds, Alvaro, to somehow back Copenhagen, or you still trust on Man United getting a ugly victory like the one they had at the weekend?
I'm going to go for a double chance for Copenhagen, 198.
Wow, nice.
I like it, yeah.
Nice.
Or Asian handicap, and this is the one that I'm going to take. You know me, conservative first. Asian handicap plus 0.75 for Copenhagen, 177. That means that if they draw, you win. If they win, you win. And if they lose by 1, you only suffer half a lose. Asian handicap plus 0.75 for Copenhagen. Why? Because Manchester United is very dysfunctional. The other day they beat Fulham, but they could have drawn that game easily. Had Palhinha clear the ball slightly better, but Bruno Fernandes scored for them. Still, many problems for Manchester United. No player is performing at his level. No player at all in Manchester United. I also wonder why Rafael Varane is not playing, because I don't think that Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire are better players than him, but than the Frenchman. But still, I don't think that the Evans and Harry Maguire should be blamed in this show just freely, because they weren't that bad against Fulham. However, I'm going to point out that different players, the list is endless. Garnacho, is he young and promising? He's young. Promising, we will see. Pellistri, same thing. Is Pellistri going to be a top winger? Let's see. let's see.
If he plays instead of Anthony, he might have a chance. But
I was going to talk about Anthony. Anthony's performances have been disgraceful for Manchester United this season. I thought that Anthony, even on a bad day, he will give me a little bit of showboat and entertainment and probably many shortcomings, but it hasn't been like this. Anthony has been really, really, really poor too. And against Fulham, he couldn't dribble past a single time Anthony Robinson. And then another player that never gets a critic, but I'm going to uncork the criticism for him, is Christian Eriksen. I think that his form has been terrible. He's not a game organizer. I think that he's a number 10. He's not a number 6, let alone a number 4. And his passing wasn't good against Fulham, and he hasn't made the difference on the ball as of late. Let's see if Marcus Rashford returns. Let's see. This is going to be very important for Manchester United, even though he's not scoring a lot this season. When it comes to Copenhagen, big miss, El Yunusi. I think that he's not going to be ready for the game, and he's been important for Copenhagen in the Champions League. Let's see how it goes. Also, a big moment for the Højlund brothers. They could play against each other, Rasmus versus Oscar. But as I said before, Asian handicap plus 0.75 for Copenhagen, 177.
Well, with all the problems, Dani, that we know about Man United, how they suffered against Copenhagen in Old Trafford, are you also backing Copenhagen somehow?
Well, the stats would suggest that Copenhagen will be hard to beat at home. Last year in the Champions League, drew all the 3 home games, including a draw against Manchester City, won 4 of the last 5 domestically. Yes, and Onana saved Manchester United with a penalty save in the last minute. Copenhagen were the better side. Copenhagen away from home. Manchester United away from home in the Champions League, only 1 win in the last 7 away Champions League games back in 2021 when Michael Carrick took over for a short period of time. Look, Manchester United in the last 10 years have spent exactly the same amount of money, pound more, pound less, than Manchester City. So you cannot say Manchester City overspend. Go back a week and a half ago, Manchester City dismantled them 3-0 at Old Trafford. There was no match. So it all comes down to one thing: bad management, bad signing. Erik ten Hag spent more than £400 million in players since he took charge. They basically overpaid some players. When you go out and pay Lisandro Martinez 50 million to Ajax, it's obvious that the next signing you go from Ajax is going to be even more, because you're paying a winger, Anthony, almost 90 million. It's way too much. Højlund, probably it's way too much, 70 million pounds, 0 Premier League goals. What about the forgotten man, Sancho? It's dysfunctional.
I know, Dani, but I think Højlund wasn't a bad business after all, because he's very young.
But is he what Manchester United needed at the moment? Somebody.
Oh yeah. They needed a number 9, 100%. But so far he hasn't delivered that much. I agree with you. But for example, what about Anthony? He played with Manchester United 55 games. He has scored 8 goals, and only 4 of them in the Premier League. Not enough.
And there is also a forgotten man, Jadon Sancho, wants to be considered the best English talent we had. Frozen out, problem with the manager, problem in his personal life, lots of things going on. So yes, it's a mediocre situation. The game against Fulham was mediocre. The draw was a fair result. Best player on the pitch, Harry Maguire. He gets far too much stick for what actually does. Maybe because he's English, maybe because he was overpaid. It's a decent defender. He's not as poor as everyone pictures him. And he can put a good shift for them. Him and McTominay. Probably Manchester United needs to go back to the basic, start from them, and build, be solid. Try not to concede too many goals. They are living dangerously. Each one of the last 7 Premier League games have been by 1 goal margin. So really, they're not dominating at all. Lot of injuries. Rashford, Lisandro Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, Martial hasn't scored in ages. For me, it's an under 2.75 goals, 193. If there are 3 goals in the game, you lose that per stake.
Well, even the last Premier League win was unconvincing. Mills Beast is telling us delusional Man United, both teams to score easily. We almost see also both teams to score a couple of weeks ago. Erik ten Hag wasn't even ready to coach a big team like Man United. Well, a lot of problems for Man United, and this is a key game. Remember that Bayern Munich, they suffer a lot to win in Copenhagen, and as Dani reminded us, they drew all the home games in the previous Champions League. For instance, Sevilla was unable to win in the Parken Stadium, or Man City. Well, this game in the next match day, we have Galatasaray, Man United. What a game. Let's jump into Group B. And here the first stop is going to be London. We have Arsenal, Sevilla. A couple of weeks ago, we saw Arsenal beating Sevilla. And if the Andalusia team are strong when they are playing at home, both in La Liga and usually also in Europe, away, they are very poor. They are suffering a lot in this season. Even with Diego Alonso, the numbers are really bad. They should have lost also the game against Celta Vigo at the weekend, against Cádiz. Alvaro, Arsenal to win could be almost a safe bet, in my opinion, or we don't trust Arsenal that much after the last two defeats?
I trust Arsenal. I really do. And I think that Arsenal are a better side than Sevilla. They show that at Sánchez Pizjuán, even though a couple of really bad actions by David Raya could have given Sevilla easily the draw. But Arsenal is not news for what they have done on the pitch. Arsenal made the news on Saturday and Sunday because they had a dig at the referees and at the PG Mall, and I think that the word went beyond the line. I don't think that the refereeing against Newcastle United was a disgrace. And I think that action in which Anthony Gordon scores, by the way, is number one, badly defended by David Raya, because he's in the first post, not covering the goal, and badly defended by Saliba, because two players of Everton were on their own, alone, against Gabriel Magalhães in the 6-yard box. Mikel Arteta will have to address that, and the fact that three things were reviewed in that action against Newcastle, three things were reviewed, it doesn't mean that Arteta is more right, okay, because the three things were reviewed probably correctly, even though we can dispute the fault or not on Gabriel Magalhães.
And also, Alvaro, we don't know exactly what Arteta was complaining about, because he never said what the mistake for him was. Was the ball came out of the pitch? Was it the offside? Yes. Was the push on Magalhães, which I think is a push, but he never said that. And I think his reaction is disproportionate from the mistake that happened.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And again, he should be very concerned about, number one, his goalkeeper, David Raya, was in the first post trying to cover a cross. You don't do that. You have to stay in the middle of the box, in the middle of the goal. That's why Mihailo Mudryk scored against Raya like that a couple of weeks ago. Yes. Because David Raya goes to the first post for every cross, and that is a mistake. And he's not that tall either. He cannot actually compensate that move with a high jump. And then why William Saliba wasn't marking Anthony Gordon? I just don't get it. But Arsenal are enraged. Arsenal knows how to catalyze all these bad vibes into a good performance. I have seen it in the past. The atmosphere that the Emirates has these days with the North London Forever song before the game and all that is spectacular. And Arsenal is drinking it to the last drop of the Champions League. They are loving to be here. And at home, they have produced very good performances. I think that Sevilla will find it difficult. Sevilla will find it difficult to keep with the tempo of Arsenal. No wins with Diego Alonso as a manager, by the way. Sevilla has won only 3 games this season. 3 against Las Palmas, against Almería, and against Quintanar in the Spanish Cup.
That's the victory for Diego Alonso, by the way. The only victory for Diego Alonso.
Sorry, you are right. You are right. 1 win for Diego Alonso. You are right. Sevilla, the best thing that they can do is the following, in my opinion. Stay in the game by being physical, by interrupting Arsenal, but making sure that they don't get many yellow cards while being aggressive, and then use the experience of some of the players they've got. Because sometimes we forget this, but Sevilla plays with 3 world champions and multiple Champions League winners. Because Jesus Navas, Sergio Ramos, Acuña, for example, they have won the World Cup and they can translate their experience into the game. Then players like Rakitic, Ocampos, they got experience and they know how to play these games, but I think that Arsenal is going to overrun them because they got much more rhythm. So I got 4 picks because I really like this game, actually. Half-time, full-time, 195, home and home for Arsenal. Arsenal winning the first half, keeping the win in the second half, 195. Arsenal to win the first half, 180. I love it because they are going to come into this game with a lot of eagerness. And Asian handicap minus 1.25 for Arsenal, 171. These are my picks.
Alvaro going full on Arsenal. Dani, would you do the same? Even someone was saying that Sevilla will put a fight. Therefore, the Asian handicap plus for Sevilla pays so well. We are seeing now the odds, and Arsenal is very, very favorite.
Can Sevilla have the same intensity for 90 minutes as Newcastle did at the weekend? That's really the key, because Newcastle made it absolutely scrappy for Arsenal. It was a bad game, and Arsenal committed the foul of getting down to Newcastle level. They're a better side than Newcastle, but they didn't play the game. And the work that Newcastle put, especially on the wide areas to block Martinelli and Saka, was extremely good, not only with the fullbacks, but also with the wide players. Now, Navas and Acuña have to be up to the task, but the entire midfield of Sevilla need to work really, really hard. It was a bad week for Arsenal. They also get knocked out of the League Cup. And I think the overreaction of Arteta is also because of the title challenge. When you are in a title challenge with Manchester City, this thing can happen, emotion can boil over. And I think Arteta is wrong. You need to translate that anger into a positive reaction for the team. It's gonna be difficult, but they could do it. But of course, it's difficult decision time for Arteta as well. Is it time to drop Raya? Is it time to drop Havertz? It's not really delivering, the German. But they've always scored in all competitions so far, the Arsenal, apart from the game at St. James's Park. And we did say as well, Sevilla are in a bad form. It doesn't look like the team is not improving under Alonso. Sergio Ramos is injured. Next up for Sevilla is the derby. No wins away since May for Sevilla, excluding the Copa del Rey. I think Arsenal could do the job, but maybe in a low-scoring game. Under 3 goals, 205.
Well, Sevilla, they've been awful, I would say, in the last 2 years, apart from those 4 games in the Europa League, and they were super lucky in Old Trafford. They've been very, very poor, and this is a massive game for Sevilla if they want to be alive for the last 2 match days in this Champions League, or even qualify for the Europa League, which could be their goal. Or Campos to get a yellow for Andrillos. This is
very good.
Good one indeed.
Or Acuña, by the way.
Or Navas. Navas, I think he's going to struggle against Martinelli. Navas, 37 years old Navas against Martinelli. Yeah, I think these are all good picks.
Yep. Well, Arsenal 6 points, Sevilla with 2, and then in this group we have also PSV 2 points, Lens 5. So PSV, they have to win. Here, they are topping the Eredivisie. They are thrashing every team in the Netherlands, but still no victories in the Champions League. They got a draw in the north of France a couple of weeks ago. Dani, Lens, it's true that they are unbeaten in 9, but they are drawing a lot of games. I'm sure they will be also very happy with a draw here. They
will be happy with a point, yes. It will help them getting closer to the qualification, which I think they can achieve. Unbeaten in 9 games, haven't lost since the 16th of September. Against Lorient, it was 0-0. They made a little bit of turnover. Wahi started on the bench. He scored a fantastic goal against PSV, that almost a kung fu kick. Yes, absolutely. And they dominated the game against against Lorient. The Lorient goalkeeper was outstanding, and the week before they beat Nantes 4-0, so they have improved. I think Lens' strength is still the organization, the defense. They kept the same back line last season. They were the best defense in League One. They are mid-table in France, but they are very, very competitive. And now they go to PSV Eindhoven, a high-scoring side, score 41 goals in 11 games in the Dutch league, but maybe it's not really what it matters here. They won all the games domestically. In the Champions League, they are struggling, winless in the last 17 games. I know it stretches back to ages ago, but this season they found it hard. It could be a high-scoring game. I trust Lens to get a result here. Asian handicap plus 0.75 for Lens, which pays 197. If they lose by only 1 goal margin, you lose half a stake. Any other result, they win, they draw, you win. If they lose by more than 1 goal margin, you lose the old stakes.
If you are going for the goals market, Corello is warning us. Lens have had over 2.5 goals in only 1 out of the last 18 games. Probably is that 4-0 against Nantes that Dani was mentioning. Alvaro, 1.8 for PSV is a bit dangerous for me.
I like it. PSV to win 182. I'm happily staying there. Yeah. I think that they can win this time. They have the chance to come back. I don't know if they will take it or not, but they have 2 games at home in the second half of the group stage. And I also like the goals market. PSV to score over 1.5 goals rather than both these to score and rather than over 2.5 goals. Because as you said, Lens, they are not very prolific this season. PSV to score over 1.5 goals, 167, because PSV has scored 2 goals or more in every home game this season. Obviously, we are bringing into the equation Eredivisie, which is not the same level as the Champions League. We know that, but PSV to score over 1.5 goals, I like it. And back to Sevilla for a second, Edu, because I made a joke before Acuña to get a yellow card. Acuña is not in the squad, okay? So I just want to make that clear, to clarify. Don't bet on Acuña to get a yellow card because he's not in the squad. Neither Ramos, by the way. So just don't bet on that.
Okay, good point. Well, it's PSV time to shine. PSV to win 2-0, according to JC. And French teams play poor away from home. Mills Beast is telling us, well, Lens, they got a point in Seville, which is a very good result. If they get a point here and then beat Sevilla at home, they will be in the last 16 round, for instance. Well, Group A and Group B, they are very tricky. There could be surprises. Group C and Group D is much more clear. Let's stop in Group C. First, in the Maradona, we have Napoli, Union Berlin. This could be a safe bet. Napoli to win around 1.5. Not because Napoli, they are brilliant, Dani, it's because also Union Berlin, they are just losing the plot. 12 consecutive defeats, 5 games without finding the net. So Napoli to win 2-0 is kind of the obvious one here, or Napoli maybe Asian handicap -1.
Or at some point, this bad run has to stop. By the way, I didn't look at the worst record in the top 5 major European leagues. It's 15 consecutive defeats. Brescia 1995, Sunderland 2002. But if you find a better answer, please write it in your comment. Is Fischer risking the sack? No, not yet, considering where he has taken Union Berlin, but has to stop. They are far from bottom. They conceded 22 goals in the Bundesliga. They can't afford to go down, can they? And it's a team that's been strengthened in the summer, but is not showing. Poor Bonucci, been losing 7 games in a row, and sometimes not been featured. For Napoli, comfortable win at the weekend against Salernitana. Third goal in 3 games for Raspadori, so he's replacing really well Osimhen, who's still injured. Good choice from Garcia to go with the Italian because he provides better link-up play up front. Still very much behind the level of last year, Napoli. They got 8 points less in Serie A, but also it's the style of play that has changed. Tactically, still a 4-3-3. They're less spectacular. They press less high. They're more effective, though. They keep the ball less. They play more behind the defense line. They try to throw the ball a little bit more. They're more direct, and they try to recover the ball quicker up top and exchange quick passes. The first goal from Raspadori against Salernitana, it simplifies that. Lobotka is less involved in the build-up, but more up the pitch. And he's a very good passer of the ball, so that could benefit Napoli. But they play, as I said, more direct. They are effective, as I mentioned. In Berlin, they only had 1 shot on target, and they scored with Raspadori. Probably didn't deserve to win. They only lost 1 against Real Madrid of the last 14 Champions League home games. So you need to think they might be favorite for this one, and the odd reflects that. But I think there could be maybe an upset in the sense both to score 2-10.
Well, Napoli, they've been vulnerable in the Maradona this season, and Union Berlin, Alvaro, they've been competitive, even unlucky probably in this Champions League, considering a lot of late goals.
I think that there is an element of bad luck at Santiago Bernabeu. They conceded pretty much in the last minute of the game, and then the next game at home they also lost it in the aggregate. This is the story for them. This is the last chance of Union Berlin to stay in the Champions League. If they lose, they are out. But it's also a chance for Napoli to leave Union Berlin behind forever. I think Napoli has to fight for the next or the following scenario. They have to win this game, and they have to wish that game week 4 finishes like this, with Real Madrid with 12 points, Napoli 9, Braga 3, and Union 0. If that happens, they are pretty much in the next round. And this happens if Napoli and Real Madrid win, which I believe that is gonna happen. We know without Osimhen it's not as easy. But then Union Berlin, they are in a terrible run, and there is an inevitable loss of confidence when you are in such a terrible run. Of course, the next win is closer and closer and around the corner, mathematically speaking. But if you have such a loss of confidence, hinders you from, number one, going at it, number two, reacting when you concede first, number three, stops you from believing you can scrap something when you are reduced to 10 men. Things like this, I think that Union Berlin doesn't have right now the confidence to face adverse scenarios. And on top of that, in the Champions League, they have scored 2 goals only. So I think it's pretty difficult for them. I'm going to go for Napoli. I'm going to back them. Napoli to win and over 1.5 goals in the game, 170.
Well, happy Chola or Cholo, I'm not sure, is saying exactly the same. Napoli to win and over 2.5 goals in this case for him. And Bonucci to get a yellow for
if he
De Bruyne.
If he plays, because he's not been playing much.
He
Yeah.
played great at Bernabeu, by the way.
Yeah,
I guess that Juranovic will be more likely, to get a yellow.
Yeah, it's against Kvaratskhelia. Yeah, possible.
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
Well, in this group, Napoli probably they will be second. Real Madrid should be first, especially if they beat Braga. Probably no Bellingham. He has a problem in the shoulder. Real Madrid is still with problems scoring goals. Vinicius and Rodrigo are out of form. Joselu missing chances. No options for Brahim. I'm still waiting for him, or we haven't seen Arda Güler lately. And Alvaro, Braga coming from a great victory in the Portuguese League, and they've been very competitive in this Champions League, even against Real Madrid or Napoli. They scored, they had chances, and they could have gotten a point in both cases.
Yeah, I know. It's not the best possible moment for Real Madrid because they drew against Rayo Vallecano. I think that that game showed again that Jude Bellingham has been covering and hiding some deficiencies of Real Madrid this season. For example, the Brazilian players are not scoring many goals. And I think that it's not only about the scoring, but also about what Karim Benzema offered, because his 1-2s with Vinicius were many times over the last 2 years the way to open up defenses. And Real Madrid doesn't have that, cannot resort to that. And on top of that, the most technical players of Real Madrid, in my opinion at least, Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, they rarely play together. So if you don't have Benzema and Kroos and Modric playing together, the technical ability of your team is going to drop quite massively. And I think Real Madrid sometimes they are not having like creativity up front. Jude Bellingham, of course, is the player who has been covering that. I don't know if he's going to be 100% ready for this game because he had a problem in his shoulder in the game against Rayo. But still, I think that it's very, very rare that Real Madrid doesn't draws or doesn't get a win at Bernabeu in 2 straight games. I mean, they already had their problem against Rayo. Fine, fair enough. Let's move on. I think that they are going to beat Braga. I'm going to go for the following: Real Madrid to win the second half, 152, or Real Madrid to score over 2.5 goals, 173. I know that this is contradictory with what I have said, but the Real Madrid are going to have many attempts in this game, and not always because they don't have a number 9, but many times they will end up scoring goals, especially at home. So Real Madrid to score over 2.5 goals, 173. So that would be my bet. Yeah.
I really like Corello's comment. He's going for Braga is a handicap plus 1.5, Dani, and this pays amazingly well, 2.4, considering that Real Madrid have only thrashed Osasuna this season at Bernabeu.
Bellingham has scored 44% of Madrid goals so far, and I agree with Alvaro. He's papering over the cracks. We talked in the previous video about Champions League that Real Madrid were lucky to win the Clásico, helped by Bellingham, 2 goals, but by the way, up to that moment wasn't playing particularly well. They're not missing only the goal from the strikers, but also the contribution from Valverde. Last season, at this stage, he had already 8 goals. So far, only 2, if we count the Meret on goal at Napoli. Otherwise, it would have been just 1. So they're missing that as well. And yes, there is something not clicking there. And sometimes they win by default, as they did against Braga. Sometimes it almost looks like effortless because they are so much better than the opposition. But can he continue? Can that make them really competitive going forward? They're unbeaten in 8 games so far since the defeat in the derby against Atletico. Also unbeaten in 8 Champions League games at home. Braga, on the other hand, they're in form, won 6-1 against Portimonense. They are the top scorers of the Portuguese league, 29 goals, but they are 8 points behind Sporting. They do concede a few goals. Ricardo Horta is back, who missed the reverse fixture, and I think this is going to be important for them. By far the best player and most creative. And Braga, this season, this summer, they went a little bit against their philosophy because in the summer they spent a lot for their own budget, 70 millions, trying to bring players of more experience, of more charisma. They got Font and Mourinho as free agents, both Bruma. So they strengthened the squad. Normally, they don't spend that much. And whether this might translate into a better form in the Champions League has to be seen. Real Madrid to win? Possibly, but I like Braga Asian handicap plus 2, 186. So that means if Real Madrid wins, let's say 3-1, which is a large score, you get your money back. And if only wins 1-0 or 2-1, you win.
I like it.
I think, guys, that Real Madrid has the responsibility to please Bernabeu here. And I know that these are empty words probably because, at the end of the day, you depend on the profligacy and conversion rate of your strikers.
Yeah.
But I do believe that Real Madrid, this game, they can score the goals. Against Rayo, they were wasteful, but they created many chances. And now they have the pressure to score. Even if Bellingham is not present in the game, I really think that they're going to beat Braga easily. And by the way, Braga has a Spanish player that 6 years ago was playing for a team that they played so many times against, San Miguel. I'm talking about Alvaro Yalo, who could be an Athletic de Bilbao player because he played 2 years in the Basque Pyramid. So I really want to follow this guy, Alvaro Yalo. He scored against Real Madrid in the first game.
Yeah, he gave the press conference ahead of the game as well, attending the media, speaking obviously Spanish. De Bruyne, I think Braga will score a goal, and most of our audience are going also for Real Madrid to win. They have trust in Los Blancos playing 3 consecutive games at home. They slept against Rayo, then they have Braga, and then on Saturday they have Valencia. On paper, easy games, but the first one, they drop points. Last group, we stay in Spain, in San Sebastián, Real Sociedad. Benfica, so disappointing, the Portuguese team, as Águila so far in this Champions League, unable to score a goal, 0 points. So if they want to have options, they have to go to the Real Arena and win. Álvaro, Real Sociedad performing well, but missing so many chances, problems to score because Oyarzabal is the only scorer or attacking player in form. They had problems with the number 9. Good odds, though, to back Real Sociedad at home. I think 2.0. So far, we've been seeing great things about Real Sociedad in this Champions League.
Yeah, I'm going to back them with an Asian handicap minus 0.25 for them. That pays 170. Let me explain to you why. Number one, because I think that they are playing in the Champions League with an aplomb that I wasn't expecting them to have at Salzburg against Inter, especially at Estadio da Luz against Benfica. They played as a senior team. They played like a team who has been used to play in the Champions League for many years now. This is the most surprising thing about Real Sociedad. I think that this is their chance to get another project-defining result. If they win, they'll be very likely in the last 16 round of the Champions League. Benfica is not going to be easy, of course. Benfica has many dangerous players. I think that Kokku and Neres are out, which will hinder them a little bit, of course, especially the Turkish player not being in midfield. But one thing about Real Sociedad that you flag, Edu, is that they don't score many goals, or, for example, they couldn't score against Barcelona despite creating many chances. Because Oyarzabal is not a number 9, but Oyarzabal is playing as a number 9 because Imanol barely rotates. And this is something that going forward can be worrying for Real Sociedad. Carlos Fernandez, Umar Sadik, Cho, Andrés Silva has been injured, all right. Zakarian, these are players that were supposed to be important for Real Sociedad, but they have done nothing this season. And it will be key for Real Sociedad to at least use these players more often and get the best out of them, because Real Sociedad cannot survive playing with the same lineup game in, game out. In the long run, this is going to be impossible. So let's see how it goes, but Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Real Sociedad, 170.
Okay, good odds for Real Sociedad. I think Dani was nodding when I was saying that. Bryce Mende, for instance, De Bruyne is mentioning him, one of the top scorers of these competitions. Dani, would you trust Real Sociedad or Benfica still have a word to say in this Champions League?
For the reason that Alvaro explained, I think Real Sociedad, they've been impressive, but they might come a little bit short in this game. Look, Benfica are the biggest disappointing team of the Champions League. No goals in the Champions League, same as Milan.
Yep.
Only
Yep.
2 teams have not scored a single goal. But can Benfica continue like this? In the reverse fixture, they were missing the top scorer, Di Maria, who's fit to play. So far, the return goals has been poor. Only 3 goals for Peter Musa, only 4 goals for Rafa Silva. It's pretty much the same team that last season was playing so well, minus Enzo Fernandez, which they sold in January. But up to the quarterfinal, we thought Benfica could have been semi-finals material. Then they found Inter and got eliminated. They are 3 points behind Sporting. They won 2-0 at the weekend. I think they might still turn it around. Having said that, Real Sociedad against Barcelona did well. They deserved the draw, didn't deserve to lose. It was in the last minute stoppage time with a VAR review. So they are a tough nut to crack. But I like the odds for a double chance X2. I think they are way too high for me to go away from them. 198 X2. You got 2 results out of 3. I think Benfica still have something to say in this competition.
Corello is asking you, Alvaro, if Bryce Mendez is going to be available. Any news? Any team news?
Bryce Mendez, as far as I know, is available. The players that are not available are possibly Traoré, who plays as a right back, and Tierney, the left back. Those players are not available. Traoré might be. Tierney is definitely out. Also, Andrés Silva is out. And probably our friend is asking about Bryce Mendez because he wants to put some money on him. Well, Bryce Mendez to score 3.5 by the way, and he's scoring in the Champions League, but he's available, yes.
Well, a draw would be positive for Real Sociedad, 7 points, same as Inter. Inter traveling to Salzburg. Dani, this Inter has the face of an Scudetto winner, we have to say. Juventus is behind, but Inter is the strongest team in Italy. They are showing it, they are playing well. Even Lautaro scored a beauty against Atalanta. It's not easy to win at Bergamo. No team had scored a goal in Serie A in Bergamo, but Inter scored 4 consecutive victories. The odds are low, though, to back Inter, 1.6. We have to see which version we are seeing of Inter, Dani, away from home in the Champions League, because against Real Sociedad, they were poor.
Well, if we see the version of Inter away from home in the Serie A, it's a winning Inter because they won all the away fixtures in Serie A, and the win at Bergamo was the first real Scudetto statement. Well, after the derby, they won 5-1. It's not easy to go to Bergamo. Atalanta hadn't conceded a single goal. Inter were patient. They found a way to unlock them, scored with a few chances they created, but controlled the game well. And in the end, they gifted the goal to Atalanta because it was a defensive mistake from Di Marco. Otherwise, Sommer hadn't much to do. It's an Inter full of confidence. That what gives you getting to the Champions League final and playing well against a top side like Manchester City. It gives you confidence. It gives you self-belief. Inter target this season in the Scudetto. They know it will be difficult to replicate the season they had last season in the Champions League, but they have a very easy group, and with a win here, they will be qualified, which will be mission accomplished really for them. And then after the knockout stages, anything can happen. They're in form. A couple of players are really in form. Çalhanoğlu at the moment is the best midfielder in Italy, and we have to say it was a must stroke for Inzaghi to place him as a defensive midfielder last season when Brozovic was injured. It is similar to the intuition of Ancelotti when he put Pirlo 20 meters behind and made him a regista playmaker, a quarterback, if you like. Çalhanoğlu, when he was at Milan, he was playing up the pitch. He didn't have the legs. He didn't have the speed to go up there and score enough goals, but in that role is absolutely perfect. The other one is Lautaro, already 13 goals this season. He's having a 23 that is amazing, 27 goals scored, and yes, it is in great form. You know, he's a streaky striker. When he starts scoring, he goes on a run. Best attack of Serie A, best defense of Serie A. The negative notes for Inter is that Pavard, the biggest signing of the summer, is out for 2 months with a problem with his rotula. Cuadrado is also out, so they're a little bit short on the right-hand side. Arnautovic will be back soon. Not yet. So it's always the same players playing against a Red Bull Salzburg that has to be praised because he's very young, youngest side in the Champions League. They went to Milano and played on the front foot. They are energetic. Inter had a few lapses of concentrations. Inter unbeaten in 4 away games in the Champions League. They're very good at controlling games. If they take the lead, they can slow it down a lot. I think it's an under 2.75 goals here, 197.
Not many goals. We have Corello, Joseph or Mills saying do not complicate it. Inter to win. But Alvaro, I've put a double on Oddspedia. Draw for this game and draw for Real Sociedad Benfica, and it pays 17 if
Not
both
bad.
games are a draw. And I think it would be a good result for Inter and for Real Sociedad, actually.
It would be good, yeah. I'm not a massive fan of draws, you know me, Edu, unless Getafe plays away to teams in the relegation zone, you know. But you know, I'm gonna go full Inter for the reasons that Daniele explained. By the way, Çalhanoğlu is a player that has never won a league title because you know he wasn't there. He wasn't there at Milan. Could have been, but he wasn't. And I think that it's time for him also to win a league title. He's been really good,
So.
phenomenal.
I hope so. I hope for him.
Yeah. But Daniele, we spoke about this many times. We've been saying for a while that the best squad in Italy is Inter's squad. I mean, even I think they have manufactured all this squad silently. 3 years ago, we would have said, oh yeah, Juventus is the best squad in Italy. A year ago, it was Napoli who won the title, fair enough. But Inter, little by little, they crafted a really, really competitive squad. I really like it. And, you know, Salzburg, they've got the home factor, of course, because at home are quite strong even in Europe. But Real Sociedad, a month ago, really destroyed them. And Real Sociedad, they were way better, and they were beating Salzburg with the tools that Salzburg uses to beat teams. Fast breaks, quick turnovers, and stealing the ball high up in the pitch. So I think that their style is no longer that unique because many teams play like this. I'm gonna go for Inter to win. I think that they've got the know-how, they've got better players, and also after reaching the Champions League final last season, they've got maybe, I would say, like a way more experience to deal with these games. Inter to win 165. I like it.
Well, You are going for Inter, as our audience are saying. Do not complicate for going for Inter in a low-scoring game. This is it. We've analyzed all the games. 8 on Wednesday, 8 on Tuesday. Tell me, Dani, your safe bet.
At the Emirates, with the enraged Arteta, Arsenal to win, 135.
Poor Sevilla, poor Diego Alonso, even if
They are
his
on
record
course
is
to
so
win the
good.
Europa League. It's a good
Dani, they
news.
beat
They'll win.
Quintanar de la Orden, a power racing in
I don't
Spanish
know. I don't
football.
even know where is Quintanar de la Orden. Give us a bit of geography.
Somewhere in the middle of the country. I'm not even sure, Alvaro, to be honest. Where is this little village? I'm gonna Google it right now.
Don't ask me.
Alvaro, your safe bet?
My safe bet, Real Madrid to win the second half,
Here we go.
152.
There you go.
You like this always Real Madrid scoring in the last minutes. Next to Toledo. It's true, actually. I had a teacher from there, now that I remember, Dani.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not far from Toledo, not far from Madrid. And Dani, Yoraka?
Napoli, Asian handicap -1. Arsenal, Asian handicap -1. Lens, Asian handicap +1. Salzburg Inter, under 3.5 goals. Total odds 6.10.
We've had many questions. If there is a nation handicap -1 and they win by 1 goal, your ACCA, they just remove the game and your ACCA still stands. We have here Alvaro, for instance, Inter to win, Arsenal to win, Napoli to win, and Real Madrid to win the second half. Another option for the Bruin. Yours,
I love
Alvaro?
it. I really like that one. Mine one is it's different, obviously, because it will be too much of a coincidence that we got the same one, like a telepathic thing. But my ACCA is this one: Asian handicap -0.25 for Arsenal in the first half. Remember, they are rabid. They are going to come out and try to win the game from the beginning. Napoli to win, Bayern to score over 2.5 goals, Real Madrid to win the second half. Altogether, 5.48.
Well, we were very successful in the previous match day with our ACCAs, or with your ACCAs, guys. So let's hope for the best. This is starting to be interesting, this Champions League. Plenty of love to everyone. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.